Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly wrap up. So excitingly, there is not a huge amount to talk about insofar as the amount of books that I read this week, but all 4 of the books that I read this week were new series, either to myself or kind of just in general. So I started 4 new series, which is not that great because I do try to finish some things, but for those who may have watched my last week's wrap up, I did complete a couple series last week, so I'm gonna give myself the leeway on that one. I finished Ajin, I finished Summertime Rendering, so I was like, I should be able to start some things. Hello, Rin, and hello, Lasagna. Welcome, as always, to the live stream. And hello, hey, Tails, how are you? I hope you enjoyed our... and hello, Christoph. Oh my goodness, so many people here. I say to 5 people, but that is still really exciting. Thanks, guys, for popping in. But as I mentioned, there's not a huge amount of actual books to talk about, but there's still a lot to talk about because they're all new series in general or new to me. 2 of which, well, the 3 that I own, I bought from my local comic book store, or my local I say local, it's local-ish to my area. Nothing. There's no local anything near where I live, but it's local-ish to where I am. And then the other one is a library book, and that is actually the one that I'm going to start with. I think it's a 4-volume manga series, but I'll just get into it. This I knew of somewhat. I know it's had an anime adaptation, or the light novels have had an anime adaptation at least. I've never seen it. Never seen any of the adaptations. The novels have never been licensed, and this manga is older. Well, older, it's been around for a while, and it's not one that I would probably pick up on my own, but since my library had it, I was like, sure, I'll read that. That's fine. And that is The Earl and the Fairy, Volume 1. This is a Shoujo Beat title. And I will read the back because I've learned that I'm just terrible at summarizing these series. So, according to the blurb, Lydia Carlton is a fairy doctor, one of the few people with the ability to see the magical creatures who share our world. During one of her rare trips to London to visit her father, Lydia's quiet life is suddenly transformed when she is rescued from kidnappers by a mysterious young man. Edgar Ashenbert claims to be descended from the human ruler of the fairy kingdom, and he urgently needs Lydia's help to find and claim his birthright, the legendary sword of the Blue Knight, Earl. Things will never be the same for Lydia as she is pulled into a dangerous quest against dark forces. So this, I guess the manga adaptation is by Ayuko, but the novels are by Mizue Tani. So as that blurb mentioned, our main character is Lydia. This is set in late 19th century, and she is what is called a fairy doctor. Basically, she helps people who have fairy and various other fantastical problems. Those who are, being annoyed by brownies and other fairies and fae and things like that. Ashenberg means Ash Mountain. That is very interesting, Tales. Thank you. But so because this is the late 19th century, there's sort of people don't really believe in the fantastical anymore. So she is one of, if not the last fairy doctor around, and she became a fairy doctor because I believe her mother was a fairy doctor. Her mother is dead, I presume. She is just not there. I will assume she's dead. And her father, as mentioned, lives in London. He's a professor or a researcher. He works at one of the universities. And so while she's going to visit her father, she gets a letter to go saying he needs to see her. And she gets kidnapped. Well, she kind of gets lured into a situation because she thinks that her father sent this guy to get her. But it turns out that, he's kidnapping, and they want this magical sword with a big sapphire or something on it. And then she's rescued by a mysterious man who is in her cupboard in the room that she's being held in, who turns out to be our other main character, Edgar, who we discover is actually after this same item, because, as I said, he is, or as the blurb mentioned, he may be the descendant of the human ruler of the fairyland or whatever. This is convoluted, but basically, she gets rescued by this guy, but then she discovers that this guy may not be who he says that he is. He may be a con artist. He may also be a criminal on the run from the US, and or may have attempted to murder someone since he's gotten to England. And yeah, she has a talking cat. Well, it's not a cat. It's a fairy that takes the place of a cat. See, it's on the thing here. And it was fine. It's not, I didn't expect this to knock my socks off or anything. The art is pretty nice, typical, this style of shoujo art. It's quite reminiscent of a lot of stuff in this genre. It kind of reminds me of currently stuff like Snow White with the Red Hair. But yeah, it's not super unique or anything. There's some interesting action. There's some interesting characters here. But this isn't a series that I would encourage you to have to read or anything. This isn't going to be a must buy, must own sort of series, but it's fine. It's fine for what it is. I think as I said, I think this manga adaptation is 4 volumes and covers the first novel, I would presume. Obviously the first story arc of the series. But the series itself, the novels, I don't know if they're still ongoing, but they have 33 novels in this series. I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot. I kind of wasn't expecting that, to be honest. And I feel like the anime was licensed at one point. Might still be licensed? I don't remember. It might be one of those weird discotheque series that they put out on, or I feel like that's what it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just deluded. But yeah, this was fine. If my library or the library system has more of it, I will finish it. But so yeah, she's kind of in this situation and she doesn't really know who to trust. But ultimately, she decides to help this guy who may be a criminal, may have actually been kidnapping her, whatever. To help him find this magical sword thing, and maybe reconnect with the fairy world or something. There's something about his backstory is sort of alluded to that he was enslaved in some capacity, and there's some stuff going on. I don't know quite where all of this is going, to be honest. but it's fine. Like, I would expect that this is a pretty unchallenging, fun romance with fantasy, fairy tale elements, this kind of semi-historical setting. Yeah, I mean, it's good. And I would expect that with 4 volumes, it should be able to wrap up the majority of what the novel is, and whether or not that is a satisfying conclusion or not, I guess we'll have to see. I don't know. So yeah, that was the first volume of The Earl and the Fairy. Yeah, it was fun. It was whatever. But I did follow that up with a novel, one that I bought, or a light novel, I should say, not a. It's all prose, but I don't really qualify light novels in the same sense as like my other novel reading. And this is a series that I'd heard good things about. It's one of the more popular Yuri light novels that we've gotten. I've heard a lot of really good reviews from this from people who do read and review light novels. And so I was looking forward to it. It seems to be fairly popular in Japan as well. And that is I'm in Love with the Villainess, Volume 1. I think this is, I mean, it's a completed web novel. I feel like, I think, so from what I can tell, the original web novel was collected in 2 volumes in Japanese. And then, but since then, there's also been a sequel, right? So in Japan, it's published on the web first and then collected into books like this. So the original web novel was collected in volumes 1 and 2. So I would expect the second half of the story to be in volume 2. And then there is a 3rd volume in Japan, which is collecting this new sequel series or follow-up series or whatever to it. So yeah, this is the story of an office worker. I'll read the back. We're just not going to even mess around with me trying to do this. But so yes, this is an isekai, but not, well, I mean, it's an isekai in the sense of like Bakarina, like all reborn or reincarnated as the villainess, all routes lead to doom. It's like in that sort of isekai more than like, I don't know, the more typical stuff that a lot of people think of. But anyway, so it says, ordinary office worker Ohashire wakes up in the body of the protagonist of her favorite otome game, Revolution. To her delight, the first person to greet her is also her favorite character, Claire Francois, the main antagonist of the story. Now Ray is determined to romance Claire instead of the game's male leads. But how will her villainous lady love react to this new courtship? So yeah, basically this woman, we don't know how she died. It doesn't really matter. She died somehow. Yeah, we don't actually know. And she wakes up and she discovers that, like in Bakarina, she has been reincarnated into the world of the Otome game that she was playing. Yeah. And Tails absolutely is onto this. Thumbs up from Tails. But basically, so she's not reincarnated as the villainess herself, like in Bakarina. She's reincarnated as the protagonist. So typically, or I don't know, whatever, there's the expectation like, oh, well, you have all of these hot boys from the Otome game to choose from. But our main character, she wasn't really into the boys. She wasn't playing it for the boys. She really liked the rival character, who is this character, right? Claire. And so she is trying to get close to this girl who is functionally meant to be her romantic rival and functionally supposed to be the villain of the piece, but she's just not gonna allow them to be at odds. Well, she's very emphatic about her interest in this girl, and she doesn't hide it whatsoever. She's like, I'm in love with you. And she's like, what are you? I don't know you. Who are you? Also, I'm this amazing ladyship and you're some weird commoner. Because again, Otome set up, you're always, the player character is always like the random, hello Zach, welcome to the live stream. The player character is always like the commoner who is, through some magic ability, is able to be taken to this, it finds themselves in extraordinary circumstances. And so, because of that, our main, or Claire, is quite unhappy with this. You know, she's a snob. She's part of the upper echelon, whilst our main character is meant to be like, oh, a commoner with like amazing magic. So that's why she's in this school. Yeah, so I agree, Rin, that I'm not like, we know that I'm not a huge isekai fan. In saying that, I do read a lot of the, I don't know if this is gonna sound shady, but like, I do think that the female targeted stuff tends to be more my speed, and I was gonna say the good stuff, but that's mean. I haven't read like all of what's available. I can't make a judgment call. But I make no secret of, I would adore if one day we got 12 Kingdoms again, relicensed. That would be phenomenal. But even stuff from other publishers that we're getting currently, the one that's jumping out and is still ongoing, and one that I really love is, of course, Ascendance of a Bookworm. Bakurina is great. And this is very fun. So this is obviously a similar twist to Bakurina. It is a comedy. It is kind of this ridiculous setup of like, oh, I found myself in the game that I'm playing. Whereas in Bakurina, she's sort of oblivious to all of the characters' attraction to her. This character, she's not oblivious. Well, she is, and well, she's obstinate in that she's very upfront about her feelings, and she's also kind of this idea of like, I don't care if my feelings are reciprocated. I just want you to know that I'm like actually in love with you, and so I want to hang out with you. And no matter what you say, I'm still going to want to hang out with you and be in love with you. So maybe like it's comedy, and it's framed as comedy, and they're the kind of, I don't know, the displeasure of the villainess character because of this. I mean, it's perhaps if you're someone who's had bad experiences with like people pushing their feelings on you, and kind of expecting, I don't know, people just like imposing their feelings on you to a point that's just beyond comfortable. This might not be the most fun thing to read, but I think the framing, the way that it's written, is meant to be silly and taken like not super seriously, and it does become pretty obvious that like, despite her grumbling, Claire doesn't actually mind that much about like Ray and her feelings and how she, is that her name? Yeah, right. I have to, and all of these things. So it doesn't feel super gross in the same way that it may do. But if that is something you're, particularly sensitive to, be aware. Tales, 12 Kingdoms is so good, and we got 4 volumes from Tokyo Pop. and I really want it, and I feel like it's a doable license because not only has J Novel Club relicensed series from Tokyo Pop that kind of died in the water originally. The one that always comes to my mind is, of course, Full Metal Panic, but Crest of the Stars or Banner of the Stars and Slayers and things like that have all been licensed rescues from them. And I think the main series of 12 Kingdoms is only like in the newer releases in Japan. It's only 9 volumes. That's so short for a light novel series. Like, that's so super short. They could do it. I would pay so much money. And I would really love a nice fancy hardcover edition, but hasn't even been licensed, so we're not going to talk about this. But yeah, 12 Kingdoms is amazing, and I highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen the show do so, because it is now also available again in the US on Blu-ray again. So definitely check that out. But we're talking about this one. So yeah, basically she wants to be stay close to this villainess, and she literally becomes her maid. She doesn't want. She wants to stay so close to her and wants to be really good friends, and always wants her to know that she'll always support her and she'll never give up, and that she likes her even with her kind of prickly and unlikable personality. And so she becomes her maid, and she's like, yeah, oh no, I don't want you as my maid. And she's like, well, too bad, because I have knowledge, so I can blackmail your father so I can be your maid. And of course, hilarity ensues. It's fun. It's a good time. There's some and yeah, we obviously we meet all the other characters. There's, as expected for an otome game, there's 3 main male love interests. Ooh, can't show that one. That one's not exactly, it's not that lascivious, but it's also a little bit too much underwear to safely share to the world. But yeah, so there's the actual romanceable leads of this game are the 3 princes of this kingdom, and which are, again, our main character she has no interest in, but because of her personality and because of how game mechanics work, 2 of the princes, I don't know, maybe it's just the princes are interested in her, but I think only the oldest prince is actually interested in her as a romance potential, because there's a whole thing with our main character. Her roommate has, and just otome tropes, but her roommate has had this background with the second prince. And so they're if you play the game and you choose the second prince, then you have to put your friendship with your roommate and conflict, and oh no. So I would expect in this reality that the roommate and the second prince are much more able to have a relationship without worrying about any of that. And then the third prince. Yes, the third prince. Wait, is it the third prince? No. Okay, no. The roommate and the third prince are the ones that they've known each other for a long time, right? The villainous girl, the rival girl, and the second prince have a whole thing. And so in the game, again, that's supposed to be the conflict if you go after that one, and that's really where she's the romantic rival / villain of the piece. But despite our main female character's like romantic interest in the villainess. She's also aware of her love's feelings for this boy, and so wants to be supportive. And they like things seem to be working out pretty well, but also we do see that Claire might not be so like emphatically one-minded about this prince as much as she seems. So who knows? This is Yuri, so like I wouldn't be super surprised. But also like the way that it's framed, it could go either way. Who knows? Who knows? It's a fun time. But I think you have to kind of be not. It's for fans of stuff like Baccarina who like Yuri. It's for people who know going in that it's going to be kind of silly. It's not going to take itself super seriously. It's for people who maybe just want like a comedy spin on a Yuri novel as well. Yeah, it was solid. It was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. I'll be interested to see how the second volume is, because as I said, I think that's the second half of the original web novel, and this ends at like a good point. Okay, also like so I just remember this because this was like, guys, this is wild for an Otome game maybe. But so the villain, not the villain of the title, but the conflict in this book is because of incest. So I'm just gonna put that out there, and it's like, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's also like, I don't know, it kind of fits with how these games typically play out. So it's not out of character, it's not like that weird, but insofar as like I would expect Otome games, that's not that wild. But the conflict of the villains of this piece, and it's neither of these characters, it's not like anyone that you have to worry about necessarily, but the whole reason that they do bad things is because the brother and the sister are in love. And I'm like, that's what? No, why did that's, I don't feel like that needs to be a thing, right? And then it's like, oh yes, well, we did this because then we could run away and like live a new life in another country, and then we could be, lovers rather than siblings. I'm like, you could have just done that without, I don't know, causing a whole thing at your school. And I'm not encouraging this, but like I feel like there's a better decision to be made here if you're really that dedicated to that. But I'm not blinded by love for my siblings, so maybe I'm just not in the right headspace for making terrible decisions. I feel like you've already made a lot of terrible decisions if you're in that point. But yeah, like as I said, it's not super duper the best thing I've ever read, but it's fun. It was a good time. As I said, I'd like to read the second half. Lasagna here made a really good point of like how they discuss sexuality. It was simple. It was sweet. I do think that it kind of, I don't know, how do I phrase this? So our main character, like, she's very obviously not attracted to men, and she's very much attracted to this female character, and we don't know how that was. Well, she says in her life, like, she was never attracted to men. We don't know whether she was attracted to women, like, in her original life, but you would presume so. Her personality hasn't changed, being reincarnated. But they never say, like, I was a lesbian, or, like, talked about it in that framing. She kind of had this, like, well, I guess that makes me gay. But it's not like it's sort of that thing, like, I don't know. How do I phrase this? Because I've said this before. I'm not in the LGBT community, and so far be it from me to dictate how anyone identifies. But in media, I think there's a difference in having characters that, like, I'm gay or I'm bisexual or I'm asexual or whatever, and stating that and having it as fact and having it as, like, clearly in the text, rather than characters who, like, are very obviously any of those things, but are like, well, I just don't see gender, or I just fall in love. And it's like, okay, I mean, sure, but you could have actually commit to it, especially when you're in a Yuri light novel. I don't know. It's not a super terrible, huge, like, black mark against it. And I do think that it's, like, a lot of people are very frank about their sexuality or their identity. So as I said, it's not for me to be like, oh, there's only one way to express yourself. But I do think that when we're talking about media, and especially media coming out of, like, a conservative country, it is harder to be, like, upfront and clear about that. But when you are also in a genre that's, like, expected to be gay, I think there's still a little bit of hesitancy to be just, like, state that as fact, and more, and less, like, the creators are more likely to be like, oh yes, they just are girls in love, but they never say, like, we're lesbians, or, you know, we're bisexuals or whatever. So it's, you know, it just kind of, it for me, it feels like a little bit like it gives enough reasonable doubt for series or fans or creators to be like, no, you may have interpreted it that way, but that was never the intention, even if it is really blatantly obvious. So, you know, I've just been burnt a lot of times, so I'm just a little bit wary whenever that comes into play. Ray! Ray! Also, what are you doing up, young lady? Welcome to the live stream. But yeah, I mean, it was good. I will want to read the next one, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes from there. But yeah, I mean, if you're wanting a Yuri light novel, if you're wanting a comedy, if you want one that plays off of the otome tropes, things like that, then this is absolutely a lot of fun. It's one that doesn't demand a lot from your brain. It doesn't demand a lot of, like, amazing deep dives into whatever. It's just meant to be a fun, kind of funny, watching how this girl kind of pushing or imposing herself onto this villainess who initially isn't that super keen, but definitely doesn't actually really have a problem with it. So yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary, but it's fine. Like, I liked it. To go back to your question, Zach, have I read or watched My Next Life as a Villainess? Yes. That's the series that... Yeah, that's Baccarina, isn't it? Am I just stupid? I can never remember the Baccarina. That's what I'm talking about when I mentioned Baccarina. Yes, I've read 4 or 5 of the novels. I watched the anime. I like it a lot. Katarina is great. I think that one deals with, like, the potential bisexuality of everyone way better bisexuality or lesbianism or whatever, just much, much better than other things that I've read, including, to a point, this. It's also like not my favorite series. But that's just because I kind of find comedy. I don't know. I do like Baccarina, and I feel like there's a point where I don't know. I feel like there's a point where sometimes the jokes can get repetitive and or stale. And it's something that I kind of felt with Baccarina. I had a bit of burnout at about volume 3. And it's not that it got worse or anything, but it did get improved. Like, it kind of refreshed itself. It found some new things to do. But volume 3 was kind of a little bit of a slog. Was it volume 2? Volume 2 or volume 3? Volume 3, because volume 1 was like her as a child, and then volume 2 was their first year at the school, and then volume 3 is when she got kidnapped. I'm like, that just served as a function to introduce the other princes. It was kind of a nothing happened book. So yeah. But yeah, and and I do agree with Ray here. It was super cute. And I wasn't aware that the author was, maybe I was aware. I kind of have a bad memory sometimes with that sort of thing. But it is really nice to see trans authors getting translated. I'm super excited for one of the upcoming trans manga that we're getting, because again, that's an own Voices series. And I feel like maybe this also would be more fun as a manga. I don't know. I feel like I don't like to buy a series if it has a manga, if it's from a light novel, just because I'm a weirdo like that. But it might just be a case of it works better in one medium. And I also think the other thing is, for a web novel, the team on Seven Seas, I think, did a great job. I think it's written really strongly. And for this to collect like 50, 60 something web novel chapters, they did it doesn't feel like some web novels that I've read where it's very obviously like a serialized work where it's like, oh yes, tune in next week for this thing to happen, and oh, there's a weird interlude and everything's kind of choppy and jumping around. This is a lot more cohesive, so that's good. Although also sometimes I'm like, how much time has passed? I don't know. Things are going on. But yeah, solid little book. Had a lot of fun with it. Not my, didn't change my life, but I will definitely be picking up more of the series. Next thing is one that I picked up read today. This is the one I got from my local comics shop as well. And I was kind of not sure whether I'd get this one, but I saw it on the shelf and was like, yeah, I'll get this. Also, okay, this, again, I'm kind of being shady today, but when this was licensed, it made a certain group of people upset. And so I bought it because I wanted to spite them. Because this group of people don't like me very much. But that is Marimo Ragawa and Narse Konohara's The Vampire and His Pleasant Companions, which is a story about a kind of a failure of a vampire who accidentally gets frozen whilst he's in his bat form and gets shipped off to Japan, where he he spontaneously turns into a human, gets arrested, turns into a bat at night. No, other way around. Turns into a bat during the day. So the police think he's escaped. And then one of the policemen is like, oh, my friend likes bats. And so gives the friend, yes, Ren, it absolutely is that group we're not going to mention. So basically, this vampire, he got a shitty vampire transformation. It was kind of half-assed. The vampire who turned him into a vampire, she didn't drink all of his blood, so he didn't die immediately. And then, yeah, the bat is adorable in this, right? So since he didn't turn out super good, he didn't have a proper transformation. He can't control when he turns between a bat and a human. And so during the day, he's a bat. During nighttime, he's a human. He just like switches into a attractive but naked young man from Nebraska. And so, yeah, shenanigans happens, and he ends up revealing himself as a vampire. Because he's in Japan, he doesn't know any Japanese. He keeps getting arrested for like indecent exposure, but as soon as they take him to the police station, every time it turns into morning, he switches back to a bat because he can't control that. So everyone thinks, all the police think he keeps escaping, and then, but as soon as it turns night again, he's just a human, naked, and so it's a comedy of errors, right? And so he ends up staying with this guy, who is this police officer's friend, who really likes bats, and who we discover works at he's a mortician, he's an embalmer, more specifically. And so, yeah, and 365801 is very enthusiastic about Naruse Konohara. So this is actually, like, this is an interesting joint creation. I believe BL author? Maybe. Typically BL author. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a BL. It definitely has that tendency. It's cute. I liked it a lot. And as Ray said, and I also, so at one point, Ray's right here saying, when the bat had to turn the pages of the textbook, I cried. So, yes, there's one point where our gruff Japanese man is like, you can't live here if you don't even know the language. You have to study. But he's like, you have to study all the time. But during the day, this guy's a bat, so he has to study whilst he's a bat, but he's so tiny and he can't keep the book open. And so, yeah, shenanigans. But he's so cute. I'll see if I can find where is this cute little bat. I mean, he's on every page, let's be real, but this poor bat. Oh, this poor guy, like, I feel like he really got the short end of the straw when it comes to vampire lore. Things do not work out for him whatsoever. Where is this cute bat? But, yeah. I will say that, and it is definitely something that kind of seems more in tune with, I don't know, how Western stuff is portray vampires, but I will say that I think the other, did the vampire turn into a bat in that one, or just did he have a bat? I'm thinking of Millennium Snow. I don't think the vampire, there's a bat in that series in some aspect. And this also, thank you for informing me, Ray, that Ragoa has, like, I can tell the America fetish. Just, what is his name? Albert. Al. He's in. I'm kind of surprised that, like, this is mean, but, like, Nebraska wouldn't necessarily be the first place I'd expect people to know. Okay, there's a cute bat. Look how cute he is. He's just like, hello. There, look at him. And I'll see if I can, where's him trying to turn the page? I really liked this a lot. As I said, I bought this for spite, but I enjoyed it a lot. Things being, BL sensitivity, absolutely, totally okay by me. Oh, cute bat! I just saw him. There he is. Look at him. Aww. And see, that's him, like, as a normal human. But look at him. He's so cute. Okay, so this is the Castle manga creator, which I haven't read, but I am aware of. Like, I've seen the cover a million times on Amazon whenever I'm, like, scrolling. I will read it one day. It's just I haven't dived into it myself. But this is good. I liked it a lot. I had a good time. And you got a pretty Japanese embalmer man and a dumb American vampire who's just, like, really shit at being a vampire. Not really from any fault of his own, but he's also an idiot. Like, I don't think this kid, like, if he wasn't a vampire, I just feel like, look how huffy that bat is. Look at him. He's like, look, you thought I was lying? How dare you? How dare you? I'm glad that everyone agrees that the bat is superior. He also cries a lot, which I think is kind of sweet. But yeah, I feel like this American kid, Al, he died kind of in a really dumb way. And I feel like if he hadn't turned into a vampire, he would have just been dead from some stupid stuff anyway. The extra story, because we also get, like, an extra novel part in the back. And yeah, he's not the brains trust of the class, I gotta say. Which isn't inherently bad, but, like, you can definitely tell he's gotten by on the kindness of the world because he looks nice. He looks pretty. But I'm interested to see where this goes. I liked this a whole bunch. I think that if you like vampires, it's a fun twist on the lore. I think the characters are pretty compelling. The possibility of BL is very obvious. I don't know if or when that happens, but it absolutely would not surprise me if and when that does. And I'm glad that my spite buy turned out to be a good investment. So yeah, it was good. It was good, and I look forward to volume 2. So yeah, this was a good time, and yeah, check it out if it. I agree. I actually do really agree, Rin, that I feel there's, like, a lot of potential, and shoujo manga kind of, obviously a lot of the most influential stuff was very queer, right? Rose of Versailles and Heart of Thomas. Yes, right. Okay, so the thing was that they were upset that it was shoujo, but it wasn't het. They were upset that it was shoujo, but they had boys that may be kissing and or might not be kissing at all. It wasn't a romance. They just hated the idea that a company would license a shoujo and then waste it on something that may be gay and or may not be about a dumb high school romance. So you really don't want to get involved. Like these are, we're not going to mention them, but there are people on Twitter who are very emphatic about the things that they like, and so much so that they are excruciatingly obtuse when it comes to any kind of awareness of how publishing works, of how licensing works, of how to get what they want, of how to communicate with like other human beings. They are atrociously anti-queer. They are atrociously, well, I'm not going to paint everyone in the group the same brush, but the ringleader, the one who's the worst of the bunch, absolutely hates gay people. It's very obvious she does and pretends that she doesn't, but I know that she does because of people in that group who have talked to me privately because they are too afraid to speak out against this ringleader. Yeah, they're super lovely. You really want to spend time with them. They are just honestly the worst. And the thing is as well, like, I will never begrudge people wanting things. Like, I absolutely understand that it can be frustrating when you feel like the stuff that you enjoy isn't getting any notice, or there's certain series that you really want. Yes, they also love to mob people for the most minute thing. But, I mean, some of my favorite series haven't been licensed, or will never be licensed, or are in a similar, because the other thing that they really hate is Kodansha's digital first thing, because they refuse to buy digitally. They just refuse. So there's a lot of irateness. They hate Kodansha because somehow they hate women, because all of their shoujo manga is digital only, which is not true. And in fact, you try to speak sense to them insofar as, because their complaint is that like more of their digital first catalog that makes it to print are shonen and like seinen stuff, which isn't inherently wrong, but all of those things, all of those shonen and seinen, well, actually it's all seinen, all of those seinen titles that they hate getting print are because they're getting anime adaptations. But then Kodansha, a lot of Kodansha's digital first stuff that does make it to print, that's a josei or shoujo title, is because they just do. It's because they're popular. People bought them and supported them. And because these people don't want to buy it digitally, obviously they're not paying for their content. They would much rather read scans, and then they get upset with publishers thinking that they hate them. And it's like, guys, if you actually gave them money, then maybe the series that you love, it would show them that there's money to be made and they will print it. Like Perfect World, or Tokyo Tarareba Girls, or A Sign of Affection, or any of them, right? Like any of them. Like all of those got print editions, and it's not because there's anime coming out, it's because people bought them. I bought them. Like, I bought those digitally, and now I am buying them physically. And compared to like Drifting Dragons, or Sayonara Football, or Goodbye Football, or whatever it is, or Wave Listen to Me, all of those have or are getting an anime adaptation, right? Yeah, it's just it's frustrating. They're stupid. The ringleader thinks that she understands. She's like, I'm a statistician or something. Like she's like, I work with numbers, but all of her data is wrong. Like, I'm not a statistician, but absolutely all of her numbers are wrong because they're biased. She wants confirmation bias, and so she just completely manipulates the numbers to support what she's saying, and then all of the other people in this group just agree because, again, confirmation bias. Like, it's just honestly, like, don't get involved. They are terrible people. As I said, well, certain members are terrible people, and they have literally run out queer women. They have a whole group chat, and she has banned any discussion of BL, despite a lot of these people enjoying BL. Like, oh my god. And the other thing is that they can never be happy. They can be never be happy when something they like gets licensed for print. Like, I don't know, a sign of affection, right? That was announced, we're doing a print release. And rather than be happy about that for 1 second, right, they get so upset as to, like, okay, cool, but you have, like, all of these other things that you haven't done. It's like, guys, literally, like, what? Why do you want to be unhappy? Why do you want to be so upset with yourself and, like, feel like a victim? Because that's my other thing about these people, is that they want to be the victim. They want to feel like the world is against them. And as someone else who is also a heterosexual young woman, we are probably aside from white heterosexual men, we are absolutely the most privileged people around. And a lot of these girls aren't white. Like, I'm not saying the race thing isn't, it's the heterosexual thing that I'm like, you're not lacking content. I don't know what you think you're not getting. And as I said, it can be frustrating when you think that, like, the stuff you enjoy is never available, but it's not like it's not available, right? It actually absolutely is. They just refuse to support it in one way or the other unless it's exactly the way they want. And so they will scream at publishers. They will totally blacklist anyone who is like, you're crazy people and you're also not even supporting this thing that you apparently love. They absolutely have zero qualms reading scans, and then they like to preach that, you know, they're also supporting, you know, amazing, supporting the industry. Oh, we're so good. Even if that series is available legally, digitally, again, they just refuse. It's just a whole mess, and I'm so glad that they finally blocked me. Well, actually, I blocked the main one first, and so that ended that, and I've never had to see them, but I just know that they are there. And so when this series was licensed, it pissed them off so badly. And again, I heard this from some of their members from this group who are just too afraid to not be part of the crowd because they don't want to be blacklisted. They don't want to be dogpiled like they love to do for everyone else who's like, you're a crazy person. So that's why I spite bought this series. That's why I spite bought the series. So if that has convinced people to buy this or try this, definitely do so. So you're very lucky, and probably everyone, all us cool people and on the Twitter manga space, we've blocked them and don't really interact with them unless they come seeking us out. So you should be safe, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I don't quite know who and who isn't blocked, but I just don't want them I'm just happier with my life not knowing what they're doing. They can stay mad and upset and victimized as much as they want. They're the ones that keep themselves unhappy, and I am living because I just like to enjoy my stuff. And I don't want, like, I can't imagine being that upset and negative over everything. So yeah. Yeah, again, like, I don't, the anti-queerness in from certain members in that group is the big thing. That's just like super gross, super duper gross. and and right, like, of course you got to stay on brand. Of course the vampires insta buy anyway. And it was like, honestly, when Yen announced it, I was super, like, it sounded pretty interesting. A lot of people had a lot of positive buzz about it, and I'm glad that it lived up to that. And it's just like an added bonus that it made those people upset. And I hope that they die mad, honestly. Like, they can just stay upset. So yeah, that was my customary weekly rant. Little more shady than usual. Well, I don't know. My rants are. I don't mean to rant every time I do a live stream. I'm sorry. Like, I apologize, but sometimes there's just some things you gotta talk about, and I prefer to do it where I can laugh about it and, like, air out my grievances in a healthy way. Yeah. Anyway, it was really good. I encourage people to buy it. As I said, whether or not, because I think this is, oh my goodness, I think this is technically not in a BL publisher, like a magazine, but that obviously has never stopped anyone. And it was solid, and I actually do want to check out Ragawa's other stuff, because this is really good. And Konohara, I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. In a cute bat. It had a cute bat. So if nothing else, buy it for the cute bat. And give your money to Yen to tell them that you want more of this, right? You want more of this stuff. And then, so all of their shoujo manga picks will be, like, blatantly queer and upset certain subsects of fans that I really dislike. So, finally, all of this stuff has been queer and or shoujo, so that's interesting. I didn't plan that, but the final book that I read, super skinny. Like, I was surprised when I got this book and saw how light it was, perhaps is the word. But this was one that I was really super excited for. This is a shoujo beat title, Viz title. And this is also a, I guess, spin-off. It's set in, it's a spin-off. It's set in the same world as this creator's other series that I own. I haven't read the other series that she's written, but that does make an appearance in this one. Anyway, so this is The King's Beast. So this is by Rei Toma. And so we have, in English, 2 series from her. Dawn of the Arcana, which is what this is a spin-off of, and I love that series. It's 13 volumes, really wonderful. And kind of wraps up a little quickly, but I think it was really solid for what it was doing, and I enjoyed it a lot. And we also have the Water Dragon's Bride, something, I don't know, what is it? Yeah, the Water Dragon's Bride. Okay, I'm not completely crazy. And So that series has like a short little bonus chapter at the end of this, but I haven't read that one. I think that's 11 volumes completed, something along those lines. I will read it at one point, but I don't know whether or not it will be a buy. This, Dawn of the Arcana, Dawn of the Arcana. I was like, is it Dawn of the Arcana or Arcana of the Dawn? No, it's Dawn of the Arcana. I initially read through my library, really loved it, picked up the volumes, and obviously they're in the collection, and they're really good. So this world that and this series is based on is one where there's humans, obviously normal human beings, people, and then there are demi-humans called Ajin, not in the same sense of not in the solidarity. Thanks, Tails. That's it reminds me of Freya. It also, so this one has kind of it says even in the author's notes, like the very beginning, that it's based in China, so it has the Asian sort of fantasy bent to it. But so this world has Ajin, who are demi-humans. They're stronger than normal humans, but they have animal ears and super strength and super healing ability and all sorts of things. They're superior in every way to humans, but they are a minority. So they are the, I guess, slave class, the lower class, the serfdom of society. And it's said in this book that boy Ajin are have to join the military. They have to fight and defend and work for, as it were, the royals, the royalty, the king, whomever that may be. And then female Ajin, basically their only option is to become a prostitute or eventually, just become mothers and maids and things like that. Not a good time, not great options for either, but definitely not for women, right? So the premise is that our main character here, what is Rangetsu? Rangetsu has been appointed to the fourth prince as his personal beast servant, which all the princes have. And typically, beast servants are Ajin that have a special ability, which again is revealed or explained, that is called Arcana in other kingdoms and other lands. So obviously tying it to Dawn of the Arcana, because our main character in that, she has the ability to see the future and see time and make predictions and stuff. Anyway, so those with a special ability are chosen kind of very early in life, and the strongest, or those with an ability, because they're very rare, are assigned to the prince. So Rangetsu's twin brother, Sogetsu. Rangetsu and Sogetsu. Sogetsu had an ability. They did a test with all the children, all the Ajin children, and Sogetsu had this amazing ability, and so he was assigned to the fourth prince as his personal bodyguard. But horribly, horrifically, tragically, he was murdered. He was killed, and so Rangetsu decides to get revenge for the untimely death of their twin, and in doing so we know Rangetsu is a woman, but obviously, or a girl, woman, but has been living a life as a man in order to one, become a soldier, and two, prove, despite not having a power, prove herself or himself as the strongest warrior or whatever. And so he becomes appointed to the bodyguard, like be the bodyguard of this prince, because she thinks that this prince was the one who killed her brother, so she's getting revenge. But once she gets there, and it is a Mulan-esque thing where like nobody knows that she's a girl, and she left her life as a girl behind. Oh, I'm sorry. Very cute bat. We're gonna have to keep an eye out to see if the cute bat is anywhere for Tails. But so once she discovers that this prince like wasn't in charge, or wasn't, who got her brother killed, she's now, rather than trying to murder this prince, which was initially her goal, initially her like revenge plan, now she's actually dedicating herself to the role in order to together them find out like who killed her twin and whatever else. I presume there will be romance, because that's sort of how these stories typically go. I really liked this. I like this series, like this setting. I think that it'll be interesting to see how the Ajin stuff plays out in this one, because there was a lot of, like in the original, there was a huge amount of conflict between humans and Ajin, because, as I said, they're like seen as lower class citizens, basically slaves, and so there's a lot of the main character in that one. Her whole purpose was to try and like get rid of that prejudice, to get rid of the exploitation of Ajin. She had a brother who was an Ajin, or like her very close, like it's just the whole thing, like her best friend, there's the whole thing. So yeah, that was really good, and I'm interested in seeing how this series plays with that. Also, the art is like, it's been a little while since I read Dawn of the Arcana, but I really like the art in this. I think Rangetsu's hair is like, I don't know, kind of impressive. Every time they focus on her hair, I'm just like, dang, that's really beautiful. Also, there's a cool fox mask thing going on here. There's just something really lovely about this series. I mean, there's a lot of violence and action and stuff going on, but at the same time, there's kind of a, I don't know, finer touch on the series compared to Dawn of the Arcana. It feels like Toma Sensei is just more experienced, which makes sense because this is a much newer series than that one, and I would presume that she's, had a lot of growth and a lot of leveling up in art over the course of her other series. And yeah, so I recommend both the original and this one. This was a great first volume for this series. It was a really good time, but also super skinny. Look how little it is. Like, I want to say it's maybe 160 pages, if that, compared to this one, which is thicker than normal, but like, look at the difference. It's chunky and then like super skinny. Where's a normal volume? It's, yeah, like look at, you can see how much it just you can definitely feel like there's 30 or 40 less pages in this one compared to this one. But regardless, I'm happy to be diving back into this world. I'm happy that it's also like its own story, because we don't really, the other, I mean, and this may change, we don't know. There's royalty in this one, and the original was about royals as well. So maybe we will get cameos of the previous, protagonists of the piece. But I'm glad that they don't, like, this series doesn't lean on the original work for it to kind of initially get popular or get interest, because that was something that I had an issue with one of the Ancient Magus Brides spin-offs. So there's 2 spin-offs for the Ancient Magus' Bride, Wizard Blue and Jack Flash, something. And initially, like, going into them, I've read both of them digitally, the first volumes of each, because I like the Ancient Magus Bride, but I don't like the main characters of that series and their relationship. I like all of the world and, like, world building and a lot of the side characters, but I really don't like Chisei and Elias as not interesting, and I don't like their romance, and I just don't like it. But I was like, okay, these are spin-offs, and they're set in the same, like, magical world, and with a setting where there is, like, fae and whatever. There's a lot of potential there. So there's one, Wizard Blue is set in France, and Jack Flash is set in New York City. And initially, Wizard Blue was one that I was, like, pretty interested in. I don't know, something about the French setting kind of appealed to me. But that one, it's basically a gender-swapped the Ancient Magus Bride. Like, the mysterious mentor, husband / bride, master, whatever, of this relationship is this, like, woman. Well, I say woman, she's kind of like a dragon beast woman thing, and then the young human person with an amazing power, who doesn't know how to use it, and all of his magical ability is a young boy, right? Like, or a teenage boy, or whatever it is. And I was like, and also they kept referencing, like, oh yes, the Thorn Mage, or whatever Elias's name is for his thing that he is. They kept talking about him. Like, I don't care. I don't want to know about him. I really don't want to know about him. I wanted, like, because the setup was interesting. Like, oh, he's this kid and he paints, but he can't use the color blue, even though his name is out. That was the other thing. He was set in France, but he had a Japanese name, and I was like, okay. And also, I'm pretty sure, like, oh no, he's actually Japanese. I'm like, but why? Like, why couldn't he just been a French kid? Like, does everyone have to be Japanese? I don't. This is just. Anyway. And then, yeah, so they end up, like, he gets picked up for adoption / betrothal by this woman, wizard, whatever she is. And he apparently has these crazy powers, but he has, like, an affinity to the color blue because his name means blue, and every time, I don't know, it's the whole thing. And I was like, okay, that wasn't as interesting or good as I wanted it to be. And then so again, initially, like, when they announced it, I don't know why the Jack Flash one kind of didn't interest me as much. Like, maybe it was just the fact that I felt like, I didn't know how the modern day like New York City setting would be handled. And it's kind of more of a, I don't know. I just initially was like, oh yeah, I probably would be more interested in the other one. But turned out I really loved Jack Flash. Okay, first of all, it didn't try to reference the original every 2 seconds. Well, the Wizard Blue didn't either, but I felt like the small reference. Hello, Mr. Vlandis. Welcome to the live stream. I feel like the small reference that Jack Flash did versus to the original versus what Wizard Blue did was handled a lot better, because like I can understand it's a small community, like sure all the magic people know each other, but it didn't feel like a carbon copy of the main story, just gender flipped and put in another country. It was like, okay, we're in New York City, we've got these two people who help solve problems or mysteries. They kind of do odd jobs and are sort of detectives. And we find out, so there's a girl, right, and she can do magic stuff. And then there's a boy, and he can turn into a wolf or a dog. A wolf, I think. And we find out that, and I think I've talked about this on stream before, but they're siblings. They're siblings. They were changelings. Well, so in folklore, changelings are the fairies steal a baby and put their baby in the place of the human baby. So they switch it. So those two were siblings in the sense of they were switched at birth, right? And so yeah, and I was like, how do you forget? Like, I know there's magic and stuff, but like, how not aware of your family do you have to be that you didn't notice that the gender of your baby changed, like, or the sex of your baby changed. But yeah, I mean, magic is the answer to that question. But I actually really liked it. It had a good dog boy, and I was kind of like, oh, that's a bit cringy when the girl was like super into, well, she was super otaku, like, maybe that's just seeing myself in things, but I also, I don't know, kind of again felt unnecessary. I just was a bit like, I don't know if gotta shoehorn Japan into everything. Thankfully, they weren't Japanese. They were just people. Well, one was a fairy. Well, they're both fairies, I guess, but they both had magical influence. She was a fairy. He was a human, but is so ingrained, raised in the fairy world that he had so much magic and whatever. And it was cute. I really liked that one, and it was a lot of fun, and it had a lot more originality going for it. And I don't remember that. Yeah, that one was the one that had the American like centaur mail delivery guy, and he was cool. So yeah, that's my review for those series. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that one, Jack Flash, worked way better as a spin-off, like in this universe world story to a series like this one did. I'm glad that this the King's Beast fell closer to Jack Flash versus Wizard's Blue when it comes to like level of spin-off. So yeah, Blackwind, you are in good company, because there's things I liked about Ancient Magus Bride, but the thing that's meant to appeal to you, i.e. Chise and Elias's romance, just didn't. Like, I hate it. I hate it so much. Not only just because of like, oh, teenage girl and monster, like ageless monster, but also he's like a useless child who needs a mother, not a wife. And also just like, oh yes, I'm a slave, but now I bought you as a slave, but actually you're going to be my assistant. So you're not really a slave, but at the same time, like, you probably shouldn't leave on your if you want to, because there's a lot of dangerous stuff, and I am the only one who can protect you. It's just kind of See, in the original, I like the centaur postman. As I said, I just have a thing for the centaur male. I don't know. It was fun. There's the girl, the maid. I don't know her name. I don't remember her name. I like the dragon, like the guy who looks after the dragons. That was my favorite part. And he's not in it nearly enough for me to like be that excited for the series. Elias is just, I even like a lot of the other like mentors and alchemists and whatever the hell else is going on. I liked the succubus storyline with the old man. I thought there was a lot of like interesting stuff. But then we just have to deal with Elias being like, oh, yeah, I'm just not going to teach you things, but also don't try and do anything on your own because you're just going to get into trouble. And also, you're going to be my assistant and or bride. And I'm just like, oh, guy, why? Like, and then she say, I don't know, she's kind of bland initially. She gets better, but she's not super interesting. I just feel like there's so many other more interesting characters in that series that it's kind of a shame that we follow those two. I also like the dog guardian guy, like her I don't know what his name is. It's a dumb thing. It's I want to say it starts with an R, but I don't remember what it is. And it's fine because I don't need to remember what it is. But the black dog who's like looking after her, and I'm like, that's fine. I like him. He's pretty cool. I just like dogs. That's also a very big possibility. And that's what gave Jack Flash the edge. I'm gonna say it because that guy, that boy, that dog boy was adorable. And also, like, literally and figuratively, the personification of a golden retriever. So, I feel like that just automatically gives it 10 more points than the original and the other spin-off. Ruth, thank you. Why was I thinking Rust? I don't know, like, but thank you. Yes, Ruth is who I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's a shame. I feel like there's a lot of potential for that series, but it's kind of mired in the whole romance thing and Elias being the worst kind of mentor insofar as not teaching anything to this person that he apparently is trying to save and teach magic to. And I just want to follow the villain, the kid or guy, whatever. I don't remember his name. Judas? Something like that. No. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The villain was cool. I thought that was compelling. And I liked the dragon guy. And the central. Just give me those. Just give me those characters. Just take them out and put them in a better series. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Jack Flash, different centaur postman, but he was also, like, I liked him a lot. And I liked the main cast more in that one. So, I'm actually... Well, I mean, I'll still follow both of them, but I'm more enthusiastic about that one now. But that doesn't have anything to do with the stuff that I read this week, aside from as a comparison. But yeah. I don't know how I get so off topic these live streams, but we're just gonna keep living my life this way, I think. So yeah, that is the end of what I read this week. Not a huge amount, but as per usual, I spoke far too much about all of these things. Ranted and got off topic, went a bit haywire in all sorts of directions on multiple occasions. So thank you, as always, for putting up with that. For anyone who was a little late to the stream, or I'll just recap as always, I read The Earl and the Fairy, which was fine. Like, it wasn't amazing or anything. It's a library borrow, and if my library has more, I will read it. If it doesn't, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I also read the first novel of I'm in Love with the Villainess. One. Solid comedy isekai with the like otome and yuri spin to it, very much for fans of things like Baccarina or Sexiled as well. Not an isekai, that one, but kind of a similar level of yuri. I don't know. That one takes its yuri more seriously than this does. This one is very much like Baccarina territory, but it's solid. It was good for the most part. I had some issues with it, but overall, pretty fun time. My Spite Buy that I really loved, The Vampire and His Pleasant Companions, which has a really adorable bat and a dumb American and a mortician, or aka a embalmer, and if you want publishers to publish more shoujo manga with queer characters and or settings, and from creators who very readily create that, absolutely buy this one. It's fun. I laughed, and there's a really cute bat, and lots of potential. I look forward to more of it. And of course, another debut that I was looking forward to, set in a series world that I really enjoyed, with The King's Beast by Ray Toma, spin-off of Dawn of the Arcana, also by Ray Toma, obviously. Yeah, and this was great. Revenge story turned to, well, I guess still a revenge story, different target, kind of a mystery whodunit, where a sister goes into a Mulan-esque situation, trying to get revenge for her twin brother who was killed in childhood, whilst protecting or being the bodyguard to the fourth crown prince of this world kingdom that they live in. But yeah, super. The other thing is like a lot of fantasy or supernatural stuff. All of these have magic to some certain extent. I mean, we got vampires with Vampire and His Pleasant Companion, as it says on the tin, right? But all the rest have like just magic. So quite fantasy-filled week series. I also was reading, and I wanted to finish it, but oh my god, it's a long book, and I don't know if I'm just bad at reading, but it's taken me way longer than I expected. It's probably 500 something pages, and whenever I read it, I'm either too tired or just I get through a dozen pages, and I'm like, I need to sleep. And it's not because it's boring or uninteresting. I actually am really enjoying it. But that was also a Asian fantasy novel. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have it done to talk about for next week, maybe. And I kind of pushed to get it done this weekend, but it wasn't happening. I still have like 300 pages to go. Well, no, actually, I'm over halfway through, but it's been a time. But it's been an enjoyable time. So, yes, as always, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and listening to me ramble and, go off on 4 million different tangents. As always, I love seeing you guys comment, and I'm so glad that you guys do seem to have a pretty fun time, or at least an interesting time when you're here. And yeah, as always, I am G from Simply G. Hopefully if you're not subscribed, then I don't know why you're here, to be honest. But otherwise, thanks guys for watching. Have a good night. Have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good day, depending on where you're located. It is very late for me, so I'm going to go to bed. And I hope everyone had a wonderful Lunar New Year. I did. I went out for dim sum. And I hope everyone who puts credence or enjoys celebrating Valentine's Day on Sunday, which is tomorrow for me, has a wonderful, wonderful Valentine's with your loved ones, whether that be your partner or your friends, or maybe even your family. It's been a rough year and a bit. Let's be real. Any excuse to celebrate something. Pig out on chocolate, but look after yourself. Stay safe. Stay healthy, and don't put too much credence into capitalist holidays that are trying to sell you chocolate and cards. But it's fun. You can eat some chocolate for yourself. Reward yourself. Thank you guys for popping in. Thanks, Crucif. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And I am going to go. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the night, day, whatever else. And I will see you in the next video, whichever that may be. Bye till then, guys.